Yes, welcome to the No State Project live for October 10th. It's 10/10/2018. It is episode 83 of the big show here, streaming live commercial free, as opposed to the Saturday show from the, which we do every Saturday from 4 to 7, but we are 3 to 4 Pacific time. For a little while anyway. I'll be doing the show from 3 to 4, but it's soon going to shift. And I guess in a few weeks, it's going to be from, because Arizona doesn't change. So I'll be going to 4 to 5. And that's the dedication that I have to do this show, that I will go by everybody else's time zone in order to get the information over to you there. So I do appreciate everybody tuning in here today. Boy. Usually my videos, and I understand my videos won't get that many views. And that's fine. That's fine. It's slowly increasing, but what is typical is that even with a handful of trolls, the like and dislike are usually vastly at odds. That it's almost overwhelming where people will like the video, even when. And I did a check of this. I did go and check, and I looked at some other videos I've done recently about veganism, like just last week. And while there were downvotes, there's still like a 10-to-1 ratio or a 5-to-1 ratio. So it's usually pretty good. This one I posted today about Larkin Rose's reign, really it's directed mainly towards his accusations towards me being dishonest and a hypocrite and not worthy of debate. Somebody was saying he didn't make any anti-vegan arguments. I wasn't responding to that. That's why I say his anti-vegan, his issue is more with people like me, that thinking that all vegans are dishonest. So that's why I titled the video that way. And it was a stream of consciousness kind of thing. I worked on it piecemeal. It's not something I had the time to sit down and do. But if you check that out, some of the things, somebody's even saying that I'm skinny. And I don't know. I thought I was lean. I'm certainly not like a typical American. I have a higher BMI because I do carry more muscle mass. I'm not a world-class strong man, but, hey, I can still rep out with over 400 pounds on the deadlift. So, it's not like I'm weak, but to say that I'm skinny, I maybe standing next to an average American meat eater. Yeah, I'm very lean, and but kind of a stupid criticism, which is why I'm typically not going to, I'm not going to be responding to comments on Facebook. So if there's somebody who has a genuine comment, or you can instant message me or message me on Facebook, or you could just call the show. I will be going through, and if we've got people who are on the chat, the live chat, that they're just there to be dicks, I'm not going to deal with the trolls anymore. Life is too short for trolls. So if you've got nothing constructive and your comments are always stupid digs, you're going to get either banned or you're not going to see your post there. We'll put you in time out. So keep that in mind. And I'm going to get criticized one way or the other. And if somebody wants to rant and rave and say that I don't allow dissent, that's ridiculous, because I do 4 hours of Anarchy Radio, and I'm even willing on the Saturday broadcast to go through commercials. So yeah, you can't hear it on the live show, but you can hear it on the YouTube stream, and it's all available. Of course, if you listen live on LRN.FM, you can still go to markstevens.net and you can get the full audio. So I am not afraid of dissent. I'm not well, that's childish. So I don't need to have trolls. I don't need to see comments from people that are taking things away. And I certainly, it's one way to stop people who can't seem to stop. I'm looking at you, Tom, that just can't seem to stop feeding the trolls. That you think that somebody who comes onto my YouTube channel and has almost nothing of value to provide, that it's just pissing on every single thing that I happen to say, they're not there for a meaningful discussion. So I'm just gonna, not tolerate that anymore. So it's the same thing with Facebook. So you know what to do. But then if anybody wants to have an actual discussion, Facebook and YouTube, not a good choice, but I'm going to do my best to spend more time on my forum. So you're more than welcome. So even if you are blocked today or next week from the YouTube comments, that doesn't mean you can't sign up for a contact me at markstevens.net, and then I can create a forum account for you. If you go there and all you're doing is pissing on and making stupid remarks or whatnot, you're going to get, or lying about my work repeatedly, yeah, you're going to get banned. No, Tom, I didn't say you were the troll. I didn't say that. People, I said, don't feed the troll. You have a habit, which we've all seen. You feed a particular troll who has nothing of value but to complain and put stupid comments up there. And you seem to think that you can spend time talking to somebody whose mind is so shut. There's one person on YouTube apparently she'll listen to, and it's not me, and it ain't you. So you and me, brother, we're in the same boat. They're just going to make fun of you. So yeah, I disagree. I think it's a complete waste of time. So I've mentioned this before. We're doing the role play. Hopefully enough people will respond to Frank Rizzo 3 on Skype, and we'll do the role play session tomorrow. And hopefully we can get through it. Still on Skype. We got to get it set up. If we are able to do it, on Discord, then we'll do it on Discord. But this is why it's so important to contact me at Frank Rizzo 3, because then we can send you the invite for Discord, and then we can do the show. But we need to do that before the show. Now, before the show, I had a really good example of something I've mentioned before, the State Department two-step. So maybe people are not aware of what I mean by that. And that is something that I started talking about years and years ago, before I even started doing a show. And before I even started, I wrote Adventures in Legal Land. The State Department two-step is a basic douchebag tactic. I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't go by and use so I'm going to apologize. I'm going to apologize for that. But it's a really unfair dodge, and what that politicians like to use. And all it is just I call it that because what they're doing is they're kicking the can. And this is something you have to be aware of, especially when you're dealing with taxes, really with most bureaucracies. And so I have spent more time doing income taxes as opposed to doing property taxes. But I still have a lot. So let's say I have 10 experiences with income tax issues and resolving those. Property tax, 1.5, 2 out of 10, not. But in 20 years, I've done quite a bit of work in that. And yes, there has been success with that. And it is posted at markstevens.net. What they typically will do is you get a letter from the treasurer, the county treasurer, and you call them because they're the ones who actually do the assessment. The assessor will give an appraised value of the property under the presumption that they have jurisdiction to do that, and there's jurisdiction to then send it to the treasurer's office to impose an actual tax, the actual tax. Now, you call the treasurer, and that's my gosh, they were contradicting their own office. It's not just that they were contradicting the California ones and Navajo County or Coconino County or Pinal County. The Phoenix, the Maricopa County treasurer, who I've spoken to before and have a call of shame on, they said, and this is what I recommend, you got to find the agent at that office who has got the responsibility or has the discretion to actually abate an erroneous assessment. So if you're not talking to one who did the assessment and has the ability to withdraw it or abate it, you're wasting your time, because no matter what they say, they're going to say, well, Mr. X had nothing to do with the assessment and has no jurisdiction or no authority in this office to abate if it's improper. So get to the right one. Now, uniformly, Again, doesn't matter if it's California, Arizona, where in Arizona, and it doesn't matter. They will always tell you, you have to go back to the assessor. The assessor who did the appraisal is the only one who can stop and or abate an erroneous assessment. Then you go to the assessor, like I did. And I've already spoken to the assessor's office here in Phoenix, and they told me I had to, even though, and they said, James told me this, even though they were the ones to abate and could abate an erroneous assessment because of the issues that I was bringing up, that issue being that they didn't have any evidence to support their claims, I had to get a call back from somebody in the litigation department, so, you know, one of their lawyers. Well, that never happened. So I called back today, right before the big show, and now they've got a different story. They said, well, you have to go to the treasurer. Only the treasurer can abate an erroneous assessment. I said, well, you do realize that I spoke with so-and-so at the treasurer's office already. That's why I'm here. I said, I always go there first, knowing they're going to say I have to go to the assessor, because that's what they do. You kick the can. So she said, well, my supervisor told me there's nothing we can do. You have to go to the treasurer. So I have to get the treasurer's name and contact number. And I said, this is what we're going to do. If I call back at the treasurer's office and relay to them that they've already told me the opposite, that only the assessor's office can. Now the assessor is changing it. What I'm going to do if they still fail to take responsibility, I'm going to do a conference call with the treasurer's office and you or someone at your office. And I'm going to put you guys together on the phone so that you guys can hammer out exactly who the right agency is. And who knows, maybe true to form, you'll pick somebody else. Maybe you'll pick on another agency just to kick the can. And she says, well, I don't know why they would say that it was that they weren't the right office and then kick it back here. And I don't know why they would do that. I was like, I know exactly why. I've even had IRS agents tell me why. Now I know the IRS is not the same, but they're a bureaucracy and they're doing exactly the same thing. I don't have it. I don't know. You got to talk to him. You got to talk to them. Whoa, you got to go over here. You got to go over there. You got to go this. You got to do this. You got to do that. And they do that just to frustrate the process so that you just give up. That the process is so frustrating of having them constantly kicking things around that you just screw it. And so I had to tell them, you have now wasted your agency and the treasurer's office. You have now wasted so much time. My client now has to pay on the protest and bring an appeal. And he's not going to be able to include much in his appeal beyond that. One, you have no evidence, and you exhibited really bad faith by playing the State Department two-step and just not treating him like an adult and answering the questions. So I'll get to the calls in just a second. There was something else that I wanted to bring out. And I always recommend that when we are on the phone or when we're doing a call, like when I'm doing the show or when I'm discussing something, whether they agree with me or disagree, I keep notes. See? This is my prep for the entire show today. Okay? And I was talking with another tax agent in California. And I run through things the same way. I always recommend you want to show that somebody's claim against you is not true. You had them first tell you what the claim is. And so she agreed that their exercise of jurisdiction is based on the presumption that if the property is physically, this is something you can go back, everybody. If you haven't seen it, go back. It was a couple of videos back. I did it just not too long ago. And you can hear them agreeing to this. I'm not making this up. Okay, don't listen to these stupid YouTube and Facebook type comments that I'm just making it up. You can hear her admit that that is her claim. And for those who are really, hardcore skeptics, you can go back and you can actually hear this claim admitted to by Scott Bales, who is the Chief Justice of the Arizona Supreme Court. I'm not making it up. So she agreed that that was their position, that if you're physically in California, their laws applied. Okay. So you know where I'm going to next. So then I ask him, okay, so I get them to agree and confirm. Okay, great. All right. Excellent. We're on the same page. I know what your claim is, and I'm not getting it wrong, so you can't say straw man. All right. So I then ask her, what facts do you rely on to prove that your claim is true, that just because the property is physically in California, that your Constitution applies? Because remember, the Constitution is one of their laws. It's the supreme law, but it is law, which is just rules written out by politicians that everyone is forced to comply with, that magically create obligations. So she says the Revenue and Taxation Code. Now, I actually will tell people in something, depending on how the conversation is going, I will tell them I'm writing it down. So I'll say, okay, Revenue and Taxation Code is the evidence proving the Constitution applies. They know I'm writing it down. And so she's patient and she, she waits. And I said, okay, so your position is that the Constitution, that the Revenue and Taxation Code is somehow evidence actually proving that the Constitution applies because the property is physically in California. So the Revenue and Taxation Code proves the Constitution applies because the property is in California. Well, she starts talking. She said yes. She starts talking about the revenue. She went into a 2-minute narrative about the actual code and the this and the that and the assessing and everything. So I just patiently wait, and I said to her exactly. I said how does the Revenue and Taxation Code prove that the Constitution applies? And she starts with we all have heard this before, we've watched these. Once you nail her, really give it to her, exactly how does the Revenue and Taxation Code prove that the Constitution applies? Then she starts getting into, there's no way, because that's backwards, okay? They'll even admit that to you, that that's backwards. They'll even tell you that the authority for the Revenue and Taxation Code is the Constitution. So there's no way that the Revenue and Taxation Code could actually prove the Constitution applies. Now, you could go about this another way, just say, really, you know what? I've got about 10, 15 minutes here. I have no problem waiting for you to get me the citation from the Revenue and Taxation Code that actually says this code proves the Constitution applies. You don't need to. That's something that trolls will try to, well, of course, yeah. But when you actually speak to the agents and not just someone on Facebook or social media, they can't come up with it. And they're the ones making the claim. So an analogy would be a police officer can rant and rave and scream all day that you're guilty of X, Y, Z. It doesn't matter what the judge thinks or what some expert on YouTube thinks. If the witness himself is admitting he doesn't have any proof of X, Y, Z, nobody's opinion matters. The only opinion that matters is the one making the claim. And so here I have pretty much 100% record where they cannot prove their claim. So say what you want about me. The evidence is pretty stark and clear there. So I go back, and again, I have to, she says she's not a lawyer. She's not an expert. She's not. I said, but you're the one making the claim. So you're not qualified to determine that your laws apply. And just because the property is physically in California, you're not qualified to say that the Constitution, how the Constitution allegedly applies. Then what she does, she says, I didn't say that. I never said anything about the Constitution. I just asked you. I said, I wrote it down. I told you I was right. You said, I asked you, what facts do you have to prove that that the Constitution applies just because the property is physically in California. You said the Revenue and Taxation Code. So then I'm asking you, exactly how does the Revenue and Taxation Code prove that the Constitution applies? You started saying something about the Revenue and Taxation Code. Then you said you weren't a lawyer. And now you're lying and saying I didn't say that. Yes, you did. So the moral of this is write the things down, because you may not be able to record them, and if you can record them, it might come back on you, or might come back on my client that about recording, and so they'll deflect the attention away from their lack of evidence and start trying to say that you shouldn't have been recording or whatnot. Even though when you call them, it even says on the recording it's being recorded. You got to write it down, because at the very least, what we've been able to do. So some may say, what did you accomplish by doing that? Well, I was able to confirm what her claim was, that she was making a legal determination or a legal claim against somebody, or a legal opinion. And she not only has no evidence to support that, she admits she's not qualified to make the statement because she's not a lawyer. Then she lied about it. She lied about what she said. So I said, well, even though, we have not only a lack of evidence, but we have extreme bad faith. So what I had said on the call, oh, so you're going, all right, you want to deny that's what you said. Let's go back to square one, won't we? Because this is an issue that I had with the 47-minute video that Robbie posted. I accomplished this in about 4 minutes. She lied about what she said. She couldn't support her own claim with evidence. And she admitted she wasn't qualified to do that. I did that in less than 5 minutes. And that's why the Socratic method is so much more effective and better than trying to give someone a narrative. Well, if I just say my position, that's going to be enough to convince somebody. Hell no. No. Not the type of people we're dealing with. If you're dealing with somebody who has the intellect and understands how to form an argument, and they understand logical fallacies, they have even a high school understanding of philosophy, yeah, laying out your argument like that can do a lot to then, persuade somebody, but not a cop, not a tax agent. So I wanted to go back to square one. All right, let's do this again. Let's start from the beginning. Is it your position on jurisdiction that your laws apply just because the property is physically in California? I'm done here. I'm done. I'm not going to debate with you. See, there's that word again. I don't think it means what you think it does. And again, that's dishonest on her part. That's certainly not due process, because she is not being honest. She's just dodging the question. And she had already answered the question. So stick to, you want to show these people, look, if we want to expose these people, we want to follow the path of least resistance. Use the tools that the Greeks gave us and has been improved on for 2,500 years. That's logic. That is reason. Use the Socratic method. Somebody makes a claim, they better have some evidence and logic to back it up. Because if they don't, we dismiss it. And if they continue going, anyway, you've got a lack of evidence and you got bad faith. And both of those are supposed to be due process violations. Because I'll tell you right now, you and I, these here plebes, you and I know from personal firsthand experience, not that I want to do this, I know they're not going to extend us the same courtesy as these tax agents. It's not going to happen. You and I don't get to make legal claims without evidence. And I mean, I'm not talking about pure theoretical issues of law where it's just what the law means. I'm talking, legal claims. We don't get to do that without evidence. nor should we. Nobody should. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to put the cans on. We're going to get you your calls. And if you, I had to in the, I actually, I don't, it is 218-632-9399. If you want to join the big show today, we have a new caller, area code 417. You are live on the No State Project. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Jason, calling from Florida.
Are you in the path of the storm?
I am, but not the storm you're talking of.
Nice. Well, I'm glad that you're not in danger that way. I do have a lot of friends and family that are.
I don't know if you remember me, but I called way back in 2012, and I got put through the ringer on the mental health aspect.
Well, it's very good. I vaguely remember that, but I don't remember all the details.
And that's fine. What happened was I've been declared various labels that basically mean I'm crazy, which is kind of relevant because I got sued by Bank of America for credit card debt. So I countersued because they kind of obstructed me registering my car. But the more interesting thing about where I was going with that is under Missouri law, you can pull the statute of limitations if you've ever been incompetent. And when I invoked that law to try to get past some statute of limitations, the judge basically started talking like I couldn't sue. I need a conservatorship. The other side has blocked discovery based on, they don't know if I know what words mean, I guess. And then to make the case even more interesting, I sent an email to the judge that I didn't think I was going to get a fair trial with him on the bench. So if he didn't recuse himself, I was going to add him as a named party for interfering with my my court case. And he did recuse himself. So it's going to the Supreme Court of Missouri to figure out what judge will take it now. But like Friday, a shrink and a police officer showed up because some of my filings apparently, indicated that I was a danger to myself, which is ridiculous. I have all my filings. But yeah, that seems to be the situation that I'm dealing with. So figuratively, it's kind of like a storm.
Yeah, that is. I don't remember all the details, but I do remember it was horrible. And what sucks is when you're, you want to be able to help, and there's very little that you can do to, to offer as far as to help resolve the situation.
The reason why I called is I wanted to nominate this judge for your wall of shame, and I didn't know how to do that.
The tyranny spotlight?
Yes.
Well, what I like to do is have the judge's name. I like to know where he is. I like to have so I can get some background information. And it really helps though if it's possible to have more than just your report on what he's doing. So like when I did Stephen Myrie, I was able to go to
what I can provide with you is the court docket, so you'll be able to see all his orders and stuff like that. And I can provide everything that I filed and emailed the judge. And then, I can give you his name. I don't know if what you're saying is it's inappropriate to give his name over the air now.
No, I don't mind that. But if I'm going to do, it's fine for you to give the name over the air when we're just talking about it. But it's a different story if I do a video. So like what I was saying, when I did the Stephen Myrie video, I had independent sources. I had independent verifiable sources. I actually had the statements of federal judges at the trial level and at the appellate level. So, I wouldn't have done that video just on the say-so of one of the litigants. And so the same thing with Bao. I have the audio. And so I didn't have to take Bao's I didn't have to take Bao's word for it. I actually, so it wasn't just Bao either. There were other people that were reporting that, but I had an objective source and a recording, so I was able to hear what that woman did. So that's why I was confident in doing that. And that's why I don't do it as often as I do, is because I can't necessarily always verify what's going on. And if I'm going to do a video on it, I want to be able to have some verification before it's the same thing with the guy up in Canada. Okay. I actually had from the court, the documents and from independent sources. I wasn't just taking Jermaine's word for it.
Wise to me. In fact, it's kind of journalistic, I will say.
Well, contrary to what people will say, that I don't look, when I call someone a liar on the air, you can bet that I have the evidence to back it up. And when I'm speculating, I'll say that, and I don't speculate someone's lying or call them a tyrant. But so I'm glad that's at least recognized by some people.
No, it seems wise to me, and I mean, just out of abundance of caution, I haven't stated his name yet, because I mean, I'd be interested in you going through that process. I don't know if he'd be willing, but like I said, this is the kind of thing that can go really bad in the night of day, and you might have a shot in in daylight. But basically, anybody who's labeled mentally ill as a second-class citizen, they don't really have rights. Everybody's always at the drop of a hat wanting to say, "Oh, well, we need to take over for Mr. Jensen and make decisions for him," and it's pretty ridiculous in a lot of ways.
Well, we've noticed that we've reported here, Bao in the Dallas, Texas area, he was taken in on a psych eval without objection from his lawyer. It wasn't pushed on him by the prosecution. It was a unilateral decision by Cheryl Hardy. And, the question that made her snap and do that was, he was asking if jurisdiction is an element of the charge, which is, I mean, please, even if you don't think that that's an appropriate question, it is a monumentally, just a catastrophic overreaction to incarcerate somebody for 10 days or any time and order a psych evaluation. Now, and I have to do a public record request to find out what happened with the psychiatrist who did that, because I want to know what was Cheryl Hardy thinking? What was the mental problem that she was, seeing or that was being exhibited, that she felt it necessary to incarcerate him and have an examination on, which of course the examination just came back he had anxiety, but well, that's normal if you've been separated from your family and put in jail without any prior notice.
It's even worse than that, because under Supreme Court precedent, they can't order that evaluation unless you're a danger to self, danger to others, or incapable of self-care. Now, different states define that last one differently.
Yeah.
But the general premise is you basically have to be at risk of, life and limb, or, something like that, to justify even detaining somebody for the evaluation. Yeah. So that particular judge would have had to reach that conclusion, not at a beyond a reasonable doubt. No, us mentally ill get just a clear and convincing standard.
Well, yeah, and it's definitely something that's used. Somebody is pointing out here, I heard not all the audio, but I did hear the audio when the judge snapped, and I remember what I heard was that Bao was asking if jurisdiction was an element of the charge. Now, someone else is saying here, verbal armament, that he got taken in for a psych eval because he wouldn't claim the name and asked who to claim it was. He says, you have the recording. Okay, that would contradict what I heard, and maybe it was because I didn't hear the whole thing. Even if he did something stupid like that, one second, even if he did something that stupid, that is, just like you've pointed out, that is not that is not grounds to question someone's sanity. And he certainly hasn't done anything on there that was an indication he was a danger to himself.
Yeah, I mean, I actually recall this video. I think you posted it on your website, and I have a pretty good memory, so I kind of remember watching this video or audio or whatever you had posted. And I remember thinking in all certainty that this judge was completely out of line that you're speaking about. I mean, it was offensive how out of line. And it was basically, what I took from it is, I don't like your question, so I can put you through the ringer. Here's 10 days. And by the way, when you get out of those 10 days, you get a bill for the 10 days at about $1,600 a day, which if your insurance doesn't cover it or you're not lucky enough to have insurance, then it kind of screws up your credit as well.
Well, they certainly have a way of destroying your life. That's what they're very, very good at doing. So I got to grab some other calls, but get with me off air. Send me that information. I'll go through it. If we can verify, I'm happy to do a tyranny spotlight on this guy. Not a problem.
Yeah. So Mark at markstevens.net.
Yes. Well, no, you can go Mark Stevens at markstevens.net, or you can go markstevens@mail.com. You just go to my website, markstevens.net, and in all the ways that you can contact me are listed there. Don't call me out of the blue, because that's usually just for a customer service line, and I'm usually not able to pick up the phone anyway, because I'm usually on hold with a tax agent. So, but always email me first.
Okay. Well, I'll try that. I think you get a lot of spam, so I'll see if I can get through.
Okay.
But thanks a lot for taking the call.
Not a problem. Have a good one. Appreciate it. Jason in Florida there. And for Tom, just be a moment. For the life of me, I don't know why Bao would be arguing or asking such questions about the name and whatnot. And what I guess is particularly frustrating too is because when you talk about things that are not provable, or if you rant about people that you don't like, you tend to get that tends to be where audiences are on Facebook, unfortunately. And so if you present something like, you can look at my call of shame. In just a few minutes, I am able to discredit a tax agent who's absolutely certain she's right in just a few questions. I barely get any views. Okay. I get like 1,500 views, but you do one of these cop watch things and you play the name game kind of thing, and you get 50, 60, 70, 100,000 views. I mean, really, that's what people want? I don't know why Bao would do that. I would absolutely not recommend that anyone do something like that. Even if you are right, it is not effective to ask such questions and make such assertions. Take their actual claim and ask them to prove it. It's that damn simple. Yeah, you got it. You got that right. Clickbait. The truth of. Anybody can make those videos for 2 hours long and claim to have all the truth about Robin Williams and have the truth of every subject known to man, every single area of science and psychology and sociology. The truth of, oh, I got to see this. Oh, really? Oh, so-and-so, some conservative just excoriates the libtards. Oh, I got to see that. I got to share that. But actually discredit high-level politicians, and you get crickets. That's why I said okay. I have a Supreme Court Chief Justice. The evidence proving the laws apply to me. The other people that they put in prison. You think anyone would be interested in that? Found gold. They don't care. They don't care. See, if you do a video that's logical and rational about veganism, nobody cares. If you rant for 28 minutes about YouTube or Facebook vegans and how much you hate them, I did this years ago where I posted a picture where James Burke's video or series Connections, 1,500 views, 2,000 views, and you do something stupid with a Vine, 17 million views. Oh my gosh. So, all right, we got to bring Tom on. He's been very patient. Tommy boy from the Big D, welcome back.
Hey, Mark. You already touched on one main topic I wanted to discuss, which was Robbie's video.
Okay.
And, you know, you had a couple of critiques the other day. And again, you got to give Robbie real credit. I mean, doing something like that off the cuff, you know, he did real well. But like you said, trying to use more leading questions, and the cop did get him off, you know, off in the bushes. But Robbie was being very patient, letting the other guy speak. So anyway, you already dealt with that. I just wanted to say one thing that I'm really calling in about. Dad kind of really got on me about this. I kind of did something the other night that wasn't very nice to you. You were a little bummed out. You spent 20 years doing this stuff, and you're talking about, you know, you're having tough financial times. And I kind of cornered you on, you know, you're in your 40s, so why don't you have a skill that you can sell? And I mentioned that to Dad, and he really berated me for it, because you're one of those really rare people in life that lives by their principles. You help people. You know, you're selfless. You help people. I know you're trying to charge them, and you probably do, and you should. But again, I apologize for putting you in that spot.
It's all right. I mean, I understand. I have other skills. It's just a matter of, are my other skills marketable at this time? And you know, the sad thing is, and this is what happens. It's just like if somebody was to get into real estate, you know, and go to school and do that, and 1987 happens, or, you know, 2008. What do? The market has collapsed, and now you've got an education that is essentially worthless. So what do you do? So, you know, that's just the luck of the draw, man. It's not a matter of, oh, well, you were just short-sighted, and, you know, I have good skills. And, but, you know, I don't want to get too deep into this, but, you know, it's not a big deal. Yeah. I mean, I've taken much harsher things, and yeah, could I have done things better? You know, if I made better choices and maybe gone and finished some of the, you know, the school, would things have been different? It could be, but yeah,
Well, don't you charge people? If you're spending all this time on the phone every day with these tax people and whomever, why aren't the people that you're helping paying you? I don't get it.
Well, you know, you're misunderstanding. It's not that people aren't paying me. Well, not enough are, but you know, because I do the show, and so anyway, you know, and so yes, I'll do, you know, several consults during a Saturday broadcast. So that, but the thing is, the way things are, you know, the economy runs, you know, like a historical thing here, and there's nothing we can do about this with the present system. As more people move into an area, rents go up, and because of the same supply demand, as more people move in, wages go down. This is just in a general sense. The thing that happens, Tom, is that expenses skyrocket, and you don't always are able to improve how much you're making. That's why you can have, like in 2008, 2009, you can see videos of people who made $250,000 a year and could not meet their expenses, because after that, expenses rose to such a degree, depending on, you know, that they couldn't keep up with it. If you have a medical issue, if someone in your family has a medical issue, that's no fault of their own, that could ruin you financially. And that's why I can look at some people and say, pick yourself up by the bootstraps. Doesn't really always work. And I'm in that kind of situation now where my expenses are spiraling out of control, that it's nobody's fault in my family, but things have happened that have made my expenses go to where I can't meet them anymore. And and even talking about this is why you have to just ban, you know, trolls. They're going to make fun of you. Like I'm not crying about it. This is the reality of the situation, and I'm adapting to it. And you can say, well, you could have had a more marketable skill. You can say that to, a lot of people who have put a lot of sweat, blood, and money and energy and dedication to doing, and then have something happen in the family where, yeah, you're making $10,000 a month, but you can have any number of medical issues and $10,000 a month will not cover it. You won't be enough. So what do you do in that situation? Well, you should have had a better education. You should have made $15,000 a month. And I say to those Republicans, Abba Fangul, you can't just put a Band-Aid of, oh, you should have had a more marketable, trade. That's not a fix-all. That is just a way to give yourself, and I'm sorry to say this, but that's just a way of making yourself feel better when people say that. Well, you should just add a more marketable skill. Like, I know people, Tom, that have a master's degree in business. They're in California. They lost their job because of downsizing. They have been out of work for 6 months. Now, are you supposed to turn around and say, oh, wow, you should have got a better MBA?
Right, I understand. And again, this is a great topic right now because this deals with the state and the non-aggression principle and capitalism, supply and demand. And I mean, there is no better system than capitalism, in my opinion, and supply and demand. Even though we don't have true capitalism, it's crony capitalism. I get that. But
it's still capital, really Tom. I got to jump in. I'm sorry. It's still capitalism. Okay. It's just like we have socialism and capitalism. Can you say it's real socialism? Yeah. It's not communism necessarily, but it is socialism. So it is capital. Capitalism is private ownership of the means of production. That is the main aspect of capitalism. So it is capitalism.
Yeah. And you made a really good point of, let's say you moved into an area years ago that you could afford the rent or whatever the case is. And now, because supply and demand and more people move in and the rents go up and blah, 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 like you just explained, it kind of prices you out of the market. It happens to poor people all the time.
Yep.
But what answer is there without a state and a safety net, which means people have to be robbed to make that safety net so that others can, collect. What is the answer?
Brother, I know that Henry George, Georgism was a very popular, ism, 100-something years ago. And I think he did run for president. And so he was trying to, I think one of the main thrusts of Georgism is how do you counter the natural devastating effects of rising rent at the same time the same forces are driving wages down? What do you do? So his idea was just to have one single tax on property. Now, I don't think it has to be compulsory. And that's why I've mentioned more than a few times on the show when economics comes up that Georgism is probably a pretty good, may answer a lot of these questions. And so it may serve as a transitional phase of getting to a governmentless society.
Right. Well, you explain medical conditions. I'm 57. And with this last job, I know I have foot problems, but I never realized how bad they are. And I'm seeing myself here in the future, if I don't have a majority sit-down job, which I do most of the time, I'm going to have a real problem. I'm having a real tough time with my feet. So what do? Eventually I'm going to be in a boat where I'm going to have a hard time making ends meet as well.
But you see, you are, and I mean this as including myself, you're the average American there that way. I can tell you, a good friend of mine is a pharmacist. I've known him for 20 years. I was at his wedding. He was, mine. There are some pills that I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but let's say like a blood thinner, Xarelto, I think it is. I may be wrong with the name. You're talking about $1,200 for that for a 3-month supply. And that is on the low end of some medications. And, like with your foot, that could be of no fault of your own. And so what do? And this is why the American system, it's a multifaceted problem. There's not one thing you could point to that's actually the problem. it's a very sophisticated thing that even some, like Trump had to admit, nobody knew how complicated, sophisticated healthcare. No, we all knew. Most of us know that, especially if you're like you and I, Tom, where we're not old, but things are starting to happen now. And what do you do if you have a medication? Like there was someone that came out, I was posted on a Reddit today. There was somebody, he turned 26 years old. He diabetic. He was not able to use his parents' insurance anymore, didn't have any coverage at work or didn't have enough coverage at work to cover the incredible cost of his medication. And he was dead in just a few months because he couldn't afford his medication.
Yeah.
And if you want to say, I'm sorry.
I worked with a guy that his wife, it was $25,000 a month for her medication.
Oh my gosh.
And in my opinion, the reason the pharmaceuticals get away with that is because of government. Because if they had a medication like that, nobody could afford that. And they get it because the government supplements it. So that's the problem.
That's part of the problem, Tom. That's not the only problem. That is absolutely not the only problem. Because another thing, too, is these medical companies, like you just said, the research, they get a tremendous amount of research money from the money that's stolen from us. And then to turn back, so you could look. There's actually people who understand this thing a lot better than you and I probably do. But one of the things that they come out is that the United States is different than, let's say, Canada, because in Canada they can actually negotiate the prices of the drugs. So that's a big one too. There was someone who posted, I think he got charged something like $4,000 to $5,000 for a small bottle that costs like $8. And so some people would say, well, price gouging is good. It's good to set the price so high because that encourages competition. Really? Really? So when I go down the street and I go to the gas station and and there's gas stations on every corner, does competition lower the price of gas? So when I go down the street, Tom, the gas will be $2.85 a gallon on both sides of the street. So where the hell is competition actually helping bring the price of gas down? So this notion that the market is perfect, that capitalism is going to save the world, no, there's absolutely no evidence of that. There's no evidence to support that capitalism. I will agree with you that it's probably the better system. And hopefully we can come up with a better system in the future so that the flaws of capitalism can be addressed and that people like you and I who are not one of the 1% can actually afford to, get the medications that we may need to survive. I mean, look, Martin Shkreli, what did he do? The moment they got the patent on something, jacked the price up like 1,000%. Really?
Right.
So the capitalists will say you can charge whatever the F you want that the market will bear. Really? Do you really think that something like OPEC, who deliberately cut, and this is admitted, I'm not making it, last year, they deliberately cut production so that they could have an artificial scarcity to justify jacking up the price 35 to 45%. Is that, so you're talking about a small group of people that can actually damage a billion. So is it a success of capitalism that a handful of people can damage and ruin and destroy the lives of hundreds of millions of people just because, hey, the market, you can charge whatever the market will bear?
Well, see, that's what the futures market is about. That is the last true bastion of capitalism. President Trump or anybody else can stand on their head all they want. They will never control the price of gasoline. That is controlled by the people that trade in those markets. So I think the gasoline example was a bad one, but because it is controlled by the entire world free markets.
You're telling me that
I don't care
that OPEC deliberately cutting production did not have a drastic effect on world oil prices?
No, I'm saying it did. And listen, if they're producing oil, they're producing a product that you need, and they should be able to do whatever they want with that product. If they don't want to produce it anymore at all, that's too bad. And that does bring competition, and maybe electric cars or whatever. That's what drives everything is competition. If they made oil, if they made gasoline $100 a gallon, guess what? We wouldn't be driving cars anymore. We'd be doing something else.
Yeah,
right?
but look at the thing is, let's look at this from the top of the roof, okay? That is something, and I know governments are absolutely intertwined with this, and you got politicians that just don't. It's all about the big dollar. I understand that they have a partner in this, a very violent, authoritarian partner. But it's not an easy solution. Well, if they went to 100 gallons a day, they did a stress test back in 2009, and they realized if it goes above $149 a barrel, that they will destroy the world economy. So if they did one day say it was going to be $100 a gallon, what they would do to society I'm just spitballing here and speculating, but it would take a long time for society to recover and be able to bring in alternatives that for what, okay. So it's not an easy, well, the market will just step in and fix that. If they did $100 a gallon, if they did $100 a gallon and shut economies down, it's not something that's going to be recovered in just a few hours or days while Mr. Capitalism, goes and fills that missing void. It doesn't. No, I'm not an economist, but that's not how it's going. That's not how it would work.
Well, to be okay. Why do you think it is not $100 a gallon right now?
It's because, like I said, in 2008 or 2009, they did a stress test, and it went to what they found, and it's generally accepted among the economists that at $149 a barrel for oil, you start to shut the economy down. It cannot function because people cannot. That's the limit, and so the market
brought it back down.
No, the market didn't. The market barely brought it down. It stayed at 100. It stayed above $140 a barrel for months. It did not.
Who controls that? Who controls that?
Who controls what?
Who controls the price of oil, beans, corn, all of that? The best free market, pure capitalism, truly is the futures markets. If you could produce a product and charge anything you wanted for it, that was a commodity like that, you would, but you can't, because other people will compete with you and sell it for less.
But here, Tom, you have a monopoly. Wait, but you only have a few. So it's not as if there's a new oil company that can then enter the world market and bring the prices down. You have a monopoly there, a virtual monopoly.
Mark, the oil companies do not dictate the price of the oil. I'm sorry. You start looking into the futures markets and you'll understand what.
No, I get that. I get that.
The prices.
I get that. Okay. But wasn't it OPEC and the oil producers that deliberately cut production? Yeah, that will affect it. Yep, supply and demand affects any commodity. That was
corn.
But that was a legitimate. That was a lie. They deliberately cut production so they could drive the price up, and they don't have competition.
I have no problem with that.
Okay.
Sorry. We do have competition. Look where the United States is going right now. Our country now is the #1 oil producer of the world. We produce more oil than Saudi Arabia. Why is that? Because of competition. Because people can make money on this, and it drives the price down. Why do you think a lot of those shale companies were going out of business? Just within the last 5 years ago, the oil industry was falling apart because oil was dropping down too low to make it worth getting that oil anymore. It's the way it should be.
Yeah, I don't think it should be. I don't think it should be that a small group of people can have such a devastating effect on the economy. that, you know, even if you're talking just the oil producers together with the stock market. But you know, I don't have an answer. I other than to say that there shouldn't be aggressive violence involved there. I've gone a little over here, Tom, but I'm glad you called. I think, you know, it's not something we're going to solve today, and I'm sorry to hear about your problem. Hopefully, your expenses are not going to continue rising beyond what you're able to pay, because that's where I'm at right now.
Right. Well, you have a good one, brother. And again, I thank you for all the work you do for us and all the effort you put in, brother. Again, I apologize for putting you on the spot. You have a good day.
It's okay. Not a problem. I'm here to be put on the spot. I don't back away from that, regardless of what some people want to, you know, what trolls want to say. I do appreciate the call. And, you know, I wish I did have the answer, but for everything, but I don't claim to. I'm not that anarchist who claims to have all the world's knowledge, the greatest expanse of knowledge the world's ever seen. And I, you know, if it wasn't for my brain, the world, the world of the world's freedom would be set back 2,000 years. But yeah, it is. There are problems, and more of what's causing the problem is not going to help out. So appreciate everyone's calls and tuning in today. I will be live on Saturday, as far as I know. So whoever we were not able to get to on the big show today, we'll get to you on Saturday. Maybe I'll have an update about these dishonest tax assessors and county treasurers. And just keep in mind that when you are going against them, when someone makes a claim, go ahead, ask your questions. Just ask them what their claim is, and then you want to know, ask leading questions on why and how they believe that is true. Get them to try to justify that their belief is actually true. And chances are, if there's someone who's working for a government, they're not going to be able to back it up. So again, appreciate everyone tuning into the No State Project for episode 83, live from the fortified compound in Mesa, Arizona. Until next time, salud.